Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association. And tonight we have one of our members, previous members of the association. And we were in the same building, officing together, uh, GlyNite Construction. And tonight we have Miss Rosalyn Glynn on the show, and we wanted to get an update what GlyNite was dealing with from a business perspective. And without further ado, welcome to the show, Miss Glynn.
Well, thank you for having me, Carlos. It's been a while. We've been trying to get together for a few years now, right?
That's right. Uh, Refresh our audience. First of all, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, where you went to school, where you uh, uh, are from, and how you got into uh, what you're doing now. Floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I'll just make it brief. So we've been in business since 1995. We've our business started kind of in construction, doing kitchen, bath remodeling. And I walked into a door, actually did some research on the computer and got into lead inspections, risk assessments for older properties. And from there, we actually, some of our people that we work for, contractors, wanted to know how they could pass what's called a clearance, which is to make sure that their properties from HUD were completely clean. So I was getting ready to start teaching a class on that to these contractors. And then we found out that EPA was having something very similar to the curriculum that I wanted to teach. And so that's what we morphed into, is to actually training contractors to work lead safe in pre-1978 properties. And so that's we've been doing that training since 2010. So for 15 years, we've been training contractors, people that are flipping homes, anybody who works in pre-1978 properties. That's what we've been doing for the last 15 years.
I wanted you to tell our audience a little bit about your personal upbringing. That's what I'm saying.
About my personal
Yeah,
upbringing,
right. When I bring different ones on, no matter which program, I like our community to know who the person is.
okay. Well, a little bit about me. I was raised here in Kansas City. I was raised in um, a family. We're a family of five. All of us were raised in construction. That's what my father did. So he trained his kids how to work in construction from the time we were little. I graduated from Loretto High School. Um, I've been in Kansas City all our life. I've been married for almost 42 years now. So my upbringing has been here in Kansas City, and
What part
my
of construction was your dad in?
he did all kind of things. He owned apartment buildings, and he also worked for other people. So we did kitchen,
Handyman work per
bath,
se?
well,
When I
anything
say
that anybody
handyman, that
needed.
could go up to a lot of money. I'm saying different projects he would take on and what have you. And I wanted to know what part of that did you play
Uh,
coming up?
Coming up, all of it. You know, from the time we were little, before we knew how to actually do anything, we learned how to, what our parts were. Was it a Phillips head, flathead, what kind of part tool that we were using? So we learned all those tools, from the time we 4 or 5 years old. And then when we were big enough, we went over to the projects. We were doing drywall, we were doing framing, we were doing anything that was needed, plumbing, some a little electrical. So he taught us how to do all those things. So that's kind of how we end up getting into the business, even as adults, turning that knowledge that we had into to doing what we were doing in construction. Now, my husband used to work in a hotel that was a very prestigious hotel here in Kansas City. And one day he went into work, and when he left work, he was going out of work with a pink slip. Everybody in their engineering department was laid off. Security was at the door to usher them out. And so from that point, we're like, okay, you really can't trust this system. You really can't, you put many years into something, and then what do? They usher you out the door. So that's kind of when we
Not
started our
even a
own business.
dignified usher out the door.
Nope, security guards at the door. And it's like, that's where many people have been working 30 years plus at this company, and then they were out the door. So that's when we started our own business. And it just started with the skills that he knew from the skills that I knew, growing up. We put them together, and then we started that business in 1995, just doing like painting and things like that. And then it went into doing kitchen, bath remodels, and things like that.
I'm going to stop right now, and we're going to put up some of your work that you've done in the past. And when you office out the same building as us, we shot some things for you. I want to let our audience take a look at that, and
Okay.
then we'll move forward.
See, this is the plants right here.
That was an eyeful. Now, what I want to ask you, how important was it in you uh, deciding that you were going to open up your own business, and not just your own business in the construction industry? Was it for you to have a role model working with your dad, in addition to the incident with your husband going to work and coming home with the pink slip?
Well, it was very important because that was a stable that was kind of given me in life and given all my siblings, because actually one of my sisters went into automotive, as well as she takes care of her home. Another one of my sisters, she actually did some more building projects herself. So we've always, since we were young, we're able to take care of our own homes and to be able to do that because of the skills that our father gave us from a young age. So even when that happened, it only made sense to do something that you were comfortable with and what you were familiar with. And so having him as a role model really helped, because it like enabled us to move forward and not to be able to be, sometimes you feel like when things happen to you, you just fall apart. You know, it does hit you and you say, okay, well, I need to move on from this. And you go back to the things that you know. And it also helps you to, like different things that we've done, like with this training, walking into to different, the wrong door and be able to get jobs for like 3 years at a time. Things like that has happened so many times. But because of knowing that you need to push forward, you walk into those doors and you stand up for yourself. And if you don't know how to do it, you learn how to do it, because that's the way that's going to be able to take care of your family. And so we've always wanted to make sure that the things that we've learned, like we walked into a class from HUD, which was teaching people how to work lead safe. And so we took that information, we put it into our company to be able to work safely in these homes, to protect families and to protect our own families. And so because of that, that helped not only us, but also the community. And it made our work ethic even better. So it's just little things like that that
What
continues
has
to
been
keep.
your biggest failure that you've learned from,
My biggest failure,
that you
I
learned
don't
the lesson?
I don't really think. my everything that we've had to do has been like climbing a ladder. It hasn't been easy because in the field that we're in, it's not like a lot of people that's going to help you. I mean, even with our lead risk assessment, where we're going in and inspecting homes, or even teaching with the EPA, none of those things were things that people mentored you on. It was things that I had to, make, maybe make a
Acquire the
mistake
skill set.
about. Huh?
Acquire the skill set to
Exactly.
navigate the maze. Uh,
Hmm.
but I want to ask you, how important is it for you to have a financial institution that you can rely on to implement some of the strategies and plans that you have with your business?
Well, that's something that is still a work in progress. You know, eh, I don't know, with the small business, it's just not easy to walk into. We've been in business for many years, but we can't just walk into an institution and say, hey, let me have this. I mean, that's still an ongoing struggle for whatever reason that it is. I believe you were telling me at one point that you were self-sufficient in being able to manage your own finances with your company. A lot of times that's the way we have to do as well. We get our own supplies, we build our own information that we need, the skills that we need to do our training. A lot of that is financed on our own. We're able to get a little bit of capital during COVID, like, a lot of small businesses were able to get. But other than that, most of our monies, we fund our own projects, or we find other little things here and there. But it's not easy for a small business to get funding.
Talk about some of the clients that you serve.
We serve many companies, not just here in Kansas
That's
City,
what
but
I'm
we
saying.
also
Throw
in
out a
St.
little
Louis.
something.
So we have trained people from Window World, Home Depot, Lowe's, Serve Pro, Gutter Guard. I mean, the list
You're
goes on and
training
on.
companies that are in the field, boots on the ground, on how to deal with some of these environmental problems.
That's right. We've trained probably more than 10,000 people in the times that we've been training people. And of course, those people come back, they enjoy the training, because the training that we give is not just book training, because we've been in the field and we know what it's like to work in these properties, to deal with children, to deal with our own children when they were growing up. So we're able to take that real life experience and put it in the classroom. And that's what people want. They want to know how learning applies to life, not just, okay, I'm learning this for 8 hours and what am I going to do with it? Everything that we teach them, they're going to learn, is going to hopefully save them from getting these $43,000 fines or $100,000 fines or prison time. Because what we're teaching them is actually an environmental protection agency law, the renovation, repair, and painting law, which means that people who, if they don't follow it, they can end up in prison. So we know how important that is. So we want to make sure that when they walk out of that training, they know exactly what to do, how to protect themselves, how to protect the families they're working in, and how to be able to keep those records. Because the record keeping, they need to have it for at least 3 years just to protect themselves and their family, their bottom dollar.
So, what do you see in the near future for your company?
In the near future, I believe that we're going to keep doing what we're doing and just continue to make everything a little bit better. We strive for improvement, not just being at one level and staying there. We strive for improvement. So, in the near future, I think we're just going to continue to do that. Right now, we are teaching classes in English, an initial class, which is a first time class. We're teaching refresher classes, which is for those who've already had the training and they've had to come back after 5 years to get recertified. We also teach training in Spanish. So that's initial training in Spanish. We've taught several Spanish trainings. So we're continuing to widen out in our training that we do, as well as our inspections. We're still doing a lot of inspections throughout the city. We have contracts in different states where we do. Um, we're also doing inspections for them. So we're just trying to keep it moving, staying it within the same uh, realm of lead and environmental issues to be able to protect families. That's our goal.
Well, uh, you said a mouthful, and I wanted to, and I guess I will go ahead and knock Jim Watts upside the head. He's always closing on his show. It was a plum pleasing pleasure having you on the show. I'd be like, cut it out, man, cut it out. we will close as usual. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good day.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.